Shalom. All praises to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Harakakadash, the one to the apostles and elders, great millstone that rule well, and Shalom to all the brothers doing the work, Syrian truth. Um, yeah. So we've got like a food shortage going on over here in the UK. It's more with greens like salad, ingredient, tomatoes, lettuce, those kinds of things. Because pretty much all of that gets imported by and large. I think there's some fruit that's grown over here, maybe some root veg, but not much. Some root veg, but like a lot of the leafy stuff, it's imported. So there's been a shortage of it, and it's funny because guy I know he sent me a picture of him in Tesco, and just like empty as fuck. What do you call it? Empty as fuck. Um, Aisles. Funny as hell. I'll read this. That's on The Guardian. It says Environment Secretary urges Britons to cherish turnips amid food shortage. Therese Coffey's champion of UK specialism causes one Labour MP to report let them eat turnips. The UK Environment Secretary, Therese Coffey, has caused a furore after she suggested people should cherish seasonal foods such as turnips as bad weather cleared supermarket shelves of tomatoes and other fresh produce. Yeah, see if they have images. No, they ain't. They only have the one. The guy restocking. Says it's important to make sure that we cherish the specialisms that we have in this country. Coffee said. No, Coffee told Parliament. A lot of people should be eating turnips right now rather than thinking necessarily about aspects of lettuce and tomatoes and similar. With a love of turnips more commonly associated with the long-suffering manservant Baldric in Blackadder, Coffee handed her servants the kind of material they would only dream of. Says let them eat turnips, suggested the Labour MP Bradshaw using a hashtag tomato shortages as turnips started to trend on Twitter timeline for possibly the first time. Coffee made her comments after being called to the Commons to answer an urgent question about the supermarket's rationing of salad ingredients owing to shortages caused by bad weather in Spain and North Africa. She'd been trying to make a point about eating seasonally. I'm conscious that consumers want a year-round choice, and that is what our supermarkets, food producers, and growers around the world try to satisfy. It's funny as well because of how society is set up, people do kind of expect to go. I mean, if we're talking the ancient world, you would have been dealing with things seasonally. You would have had things that would have been what's it called, like planted and harvested in the in autumn, and then some things you would store, some things you would basically have as their basically as they like ripen and they're ready to be eaten. But now, especially because pretty much all farming is done with what's it called, like fertilizer, artificial fertilizers that can force the fruit to ripen and whatnot and to complete. But especially as with over farming's been a thing, the level of nutrients that you're getting in there because the soil hasn't been allowed to rest. There's not crop rotations and like letting the soil rejuvenate its minerals. Then you just have a level of like the fruit, the strength of the fruit is nowhere near the level it was coming from the ancient world. That's something I remember. We went down to like Corfu Castle, and there was a guy there that was basically going into how they had seeds for like fruit and veg from medieval times, and those like when they grew, like they're way richer, way bigger, like they had more density to it as far as like nutrients wise, and that's something that's been completely like that shit don't even exist. That's not a reality that's gonna happen now in modern times, because you're basically dealing with soil. It's like the same level of well, maybe even more because it's industrialized levels of farming as what led up to the Dust Bowl. And like what do you call it, what's the film, Interstellar, shows kind of where, you know, that leads to down the line, where, and it's in the scriptures, if the days weren't shortened. In fact, I'll read it. uh Matthew 24:21, it says, "For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened." So as far as with the manner in which the earth's being depleted, without those days being cut short, then there'll be no means for the humanity to even continue, man. Everyone would grind. It would cease to be. Because why? Esau uses everything to the point where it's unsustainable. Uh, is it, 11? Revelation 11:18. And the nations are angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead, and that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants, the prophets, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. So yeah, when the judgment's coming, it's part of that is why, because Esau's the one that's destroying the earth. These is even with, you know, going into these shortages, these famines, these essentially judgments are coming forth, and situations are being set up. Why? Because it's the time of the end. Time where there'll be what? Great earthquakes, famines, wars, pestilence. I'm going to go into the pestilence after, because another aspect of the food shortages is the bird flu. So it said, was a bounty of this unloved root vegetable part of the promised Brexit dividend? People asked as they shared doctored images of the campaign. So I guess the rest is just going to be going into it. It's funny still. The UK argues over whether Brexit is affecting tomato shortage. Meanwhile, in Spain, men are in the having that tomato festival. So further down it says, he said, "We don't believe it is for us to tell people What they should or shouldn't buy, that is entirely a matter for them. I think that the Secretary of State was setting out the importance of celebrating the produce that we grow here in the UK, but ultimately it's for individuals to decide what food they buy. Asked if Brexit had an impact on the shortages, he said, the industry and retailers themselves have spoken about the reason for some of the supply shortage we're facing, notably poor weather in certain parts of Southern Europe and North Africa. But yeah, obviously it's have an impact, but really it's all combined. Is like because with any shortage, the people that are gonna feel it in a region, if there's a shortage, just like with I can't remember what, if it was maybe Thailand or somewhere in Southeast Asia where they had like a shortage of like certain grains or feed, like chicken feed, where they'll just stop exporting it rather than so those inside the country could still have it, but then it would be everyone, those inside the country still have it, but then it's the people buying it off them that feel the burn. And that's how it is with, why you can see in Spain they still got that shit. Because they had the picture, they still got the shit. But overseas, over here, we're getting the short end of the stick. In this, current land over here, this current land's getting the short end of the stick. And that's something that's going to be spread, because a lot of things are sold internationally. It's a global economy. It's a global form of trade of all kinds of products, and that then means what? That the pain's gonna be felt. So this is on USA Today. It says bird flu costs accumulate as avian influenza outbreak enters second year. It says the ongoing bird flu outbreak has cost the government roughly $661 million and added to consumers' pain at the grocery store after more than 58 million birds were slaughtered to limit the spread of the virus. In addition to the cost of the government response and rising price of eggs, chicken and turkey, farmers who raise those animals have easily lost more than $1 billion, said an agricultural economist. Though no one has calculated the total cost of the industry yet. Yeah. And that's the thing with these things as well. It might be not the current harvest, the current crop, the current produce that's going out now, right this minute, that's impacted. But then when they go to sell the next produce and the prices are going to go up and up as well. Because why? They're going to be like, yo, I got barely any chickens to sell. And there's going to be a shortage, and there's going to be more people willing to pay for it. It's like before, during the pandemic, when we had chicken shortages in Nando's, there would have been people, people would have been willing to pay more because there was less. So, maybe KFC paid more or whatever the fuck. Somewhere where they're they're willing to put down more cash, and then it's just not profitable for for certain companies to buy at a certain price, and shortages pile up, and then when we're dealing with international shit as well, then it gets peak. So that says 1 million. Okay. 1 billion, sorry. So it says the bad news is that with the outbreak entering its second year and a spring migratory season looming, there's no end in sight, and there's little farmers can do beyond the steps they've already taken. So he said, well, unlike past years, the virus causes highly pathogenic avian influenza found a way to survive through the heat of last summer, leading to a rise of cases reported in the fall. And this is, since I think it's 2 years now. They said, entering the second year. So it's been consistent. And they said, like, what? 58 million, I think it was. 58 million birds have been killed. 58 million was slaughtered, yeah. So that's wild. Says this past year has been devastating for the turkey industry as we experience unequivocally the worst HPAI outbreak in the industry's history. National Turkey Federation spokeswoman Shelby Newman said. It's funny as well, because then I guess it means, well, around when they're doing that Thanksgiving and Christmas, it's gonna be peak, because there's always that trope in like Christmas movies or Thanksgiving movies, I guess, in the US, where like two mums go to the supermarket and they're getting into WWE, choke slamming each other, drop kicking, suplexing them to for the last turkey. And that's how it's gonna get, because when the food gets tight, when it gets peak, then yeah, people get aggy. What it's saying, in a current outbreak, 58.4 million birds have been slaughtered on more than 300 commercial farms in 47 states. That's because anytime the virus is detected, the entire flock on that farm, which can number in the millions, must be killed to limit the spread. Yeah, which is fucking nuts. It said Iowa has 16 million birds slaughtered. Says in 2015, about 50 million chickens and turkeys were slaughtered on more than 200 farms in 15 states. That previous outbreak remains the most expensive animal health disaster in US history. The federal government spent nearly $1 billion to deal with infected birds, clean up barns, and compensate farmers. Cost the industry roughly $3 billion as the farmers incurred additional costs and lost money when they didn't have any birds on their farms. Yeah. So it's completely fucked. It's completely fucked. And because this one's going on longer, and like they said, it lasted through autumn, well, through the summer to autumn, it's peak. And because it's not going anywhere, the shortage is only going to increase. So that's, another aspect. And this is also piling on top of other impacts, since the war in Ukraine is still ongoing. So you got all the shortages, mainly for cooking oils, still persisting from there. And it's more fuel to the fire. Second Ezra 16:17. Woe is me. That's a lot. Woe is me, woe is me. Who will deliver? Verse 2nd Ezra 16:17. Woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows and great mourning, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the powers shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? That's what we're in the midst of. It's all of the prophecies talking about what's gonna befall us in the last days, what we can expect to be seeing when the world, this current rulership, this current system is being ready to meet its end. Everything's being fulfilled in this current time. And that's, it lets you know what the time is, man. That's why we know these things, there's not just gonna be all of a sudden a solution drops out of the sky. It's just gonna culminate and, go hit higher heights. That's why they're doing, talking about eating bugs. That's why they're talking about it was eating bugs. What was the other, and the Franken foods and whatnot. These are the things that are being offered as a solution, rather than actually dealing with actual, things that are good to eat. But that's the fucking complete insanity that we're currently in. And that's meant to be the justification for what do you call it? be the justification for getting everyone into that. So it says, behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. Yeah, these things are basically corrective measure, but we've long passed the threshold of correction. It's the main thing is like Esau having Israel in his hand. He's not even offered a recompense. It's saying Joah says, we offer me a recompense. Swiftly and speedily will I return that recompense on your own head. As far as for that situation to now be resolved, it's at the point where what? You can't just be like, okay, no, we're sorry. Here's $1 billion. We're not that ain't gonna do anything. Because it's hit the point where the the situation needs to be flipped. It says what? It's a righteous thing to recompense against them that trouble you. That's what's gonna go down. That recompense against those that troubled us. So what does it say? For all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case, and even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. For many that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. So yeah, even if you get them chickens, you get them tomatoes, you get that lettuce, you get all the things that there's going to be a drastic shortage of. You get your eggs. Then regardless, there's still a judgment waiting for you. That doesn't then mean that everything's all good. But really, for us now, presently, is to see what clearly when that time. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Famine coming, man. Shalom. Yabashim Yashab, Shalom Kakatash Bakata. Shalom.